Week 10 of the fantasy football season. Here's the top 12 defense DST units I'm ranking this week. Number 1, the Los Angeles Chargers. So this week, a great matchup versus the Tennessee Titans coming to town. And last week, we saw Jameis Winston and this Brown offense couldn't get anything going. This Charger defense, they're starting to really get things going. And that will Mason Rudolph with this Tennessee Titan team coming to town, where they give up top 5 fantasy points to DSTs on the season. I think they're going to get pressure early and often. I think they're going to create a few turnovers. And we know they've kept teams scoring in the mid-teens, low 20s. I believe, once again, Los Angeles goes out there, and it wouldn't be surprising to me if they have a similar performance this week like they did last. Number 2, the Philadelphia Eagles at the Cowboys. So this week, a good matchup at the Cowboys. Their offense was struggling before Dak Prescott went down with injury, and now Cooper Rush in their quarterback. And I know a few seasons ago Cooper Rush was 5-1, and maybe I'm underestimating him, but this Cowboy offensive line's way worse than it was years ago when Rush came in for those 6 games for Dak Prescott. And even on the outside, besides CeeDee Lamb and Jake Ferguson, there's not much going on that Cowboy offense. I think Philadelphia will get pressure early and often on Cooper Rush. They're going to go out there and make plays. And this defense, they're starting to get things going as well for the most part over the last few weeks. Number 3, the Kansas City Chiefs. So this Chief defense last week, they had a couple breakdowns in that secondary for Tampa Bay to come back and force overtime, even though the Chiefs drove down and won the game. So the Broncos are coming to town. Bo Nix, he's definitely playing good football this season in his rookie. And this Denver Bronco team definitely a surprise as well, even though last week they got blown out 41-10. I believe, though, Kansas City's going to get pressure on Nix early and often. They've been good with young quarterbacks over the last few seasons. And with Steve Spagnuolo as a defensive coordinator, at times this defense has outperformed the offense this season. Number 4, Chicago Bears. So the Bears got a good matchup with the Patriots coming to town. I know this Patriot offense has definitely improved with Drake May in there quarterback, but Chicago, I believe, could get to Drake May a few times. We know he's turning the football over, even though his running prowess, and he's putting touchdowns on the board of what's getting Drake May the fantasy points. But this week, I think Chicago back in Soldier Field, a bad loss last week, and with New England coming to town, if they could stop the run game of Ramondre Stevenson, that's going to stop 50% of this offense. Number 5, the Buffalo Bills. So the Bills, their DST starting to kick it into gear for the most part over the last month of the season. I know last week they gave up 27 points, but that was a high-powered Miami Dolphin offense that obviously knows this Bill team well, playing in the same division in the AFC East. But Indianapolis Colts, they travel to Joe Flacco in their quarterback. And I know Joe Flacco, he's got the ability to get the football down the field, put points on the board, but if you get a hand on him, he's going to go down. And also, we know with Joe Flacco, he's been a turnover quarterback over the last few seasons. I think the Bills go into Indianapolis, take care of business, and if they get off to an early lead, they're going to make this offense one-dimensional, and that's where they really could start teeing off on Flacco. Number 6, the Minnesota Vikings. So this DST, one of the best units all season long, is Minnesota. Last week, they had a good game versus the Indianapolis Colts on Sunday Night Football, and Joe Flacco, he threw a few picks in that ball game. He was running for his life at times, and this week it's a good matchup with the Jacksonville Jaguars, where their offensive line isn't any that good. Trevor Lawrence taking another step back this season, throwing interceptions, taking a lot of sacks, and I think Minnesota, as a middle-of-the-pack start this week, is a solid option. Number 7, the New York Giants, who is a one-week streaming option. Munich, Germany, this ball game's in versus the Carolina Panthers. I think the Giants could go out there, they could have a good game, and we know they're amongst the league leaders in sacks. The problem with the Giants, they don't create a lot of turnovers, and they give up mid-20s to high 20s mostly on the scoreboard. But this week versus the Panthers, I believe the Giants could go out there, they're going to get sacks in this ball game and possibly find a few turnovers, and this game could be in the mid-teens, low 20s. Number 8, the Atlanta Falcons. So the New Orleans Saints, they're banged up. I don't believe Chris Olave is going to play in this one, and even if he does, he hasn't had much of an impact. He's been in and out of games all season long. This offensive line, they're banged up as well for this New Orleans Saints team, and now with a new head coach, we'll see how this offensive system runs. I think the Falcons defense, I don't think they're a great unit, but it's a streaming option versus at the Saints, a team that's had trouble over the last 4 or 5 weeks putting points on the board. I think Atlanta goes out there and is a surprising performance. Number 9, the San Francisco 49ers. So the Niners, their defense is getting a little healthier coming off the bye week. This is a pretty decent matchup at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Bucs, I believe, are going to have a hard time running the football, but in the passing game, it doesn't matter who's out there. Baker Mayfield's been finding ways to put points on the board, and this Buc team's still competitive with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, who's out for the season. But I think 49ers coming off the bye, Christian McCaffrey back in the lineup. They're going to go in there, take care of business, have a good game plan, and have a decent performance. Number 10, the Washington Commanders. So the Commanders, a pretty decent matchup. Russell Wilson and the Steelers coming to town. And no doubt about it, the Steelers offense is actually a little better with Wilson in there, quarterback, over the last couple of weeks. But now Marshawn Lattimore, they acquired at the NFL trade deadline. I don't know if he's going to play in this game for sure for this Washington Commander team, but they're getting to the quarterback. They're holding opponents down over the last couple of weeks. And if their offense gets off to a good start, this is where the defense really plays great, where they make an offense one-dimensional. So the key is, for me, if they stop Najee Harris in this ball game, is Washington, and then force Russell Wilson to try to beat him. Even though he could beat teams at times, I still believe if that's the game plan, the Commanders could be in for a decent performance. Number 11, the Pittsburgh Steelers. I know this Commander offense is high-powered. They're putting points on the board, but this Pittsburgh Steelers defense is a good defense as well, where they get to the quarterback, they create turnovers, and their ball games, for the most part, have been mid-teens, low 20s. So I think this one, the Commanders, they'll put points on the board, but I believe Pittsburgh, they'll get a few sacks in this game, create 1 or 2 turnovers. I know Jaden Daniels, he's been very careful with the football and one of the best in the league, not turning it over. But this Steelers team coming off the bye week, I believe they're going to be ready to go into this ball game, and it could be a grinded-out matchup between these two teams. And the 12th and final defense, DST, I'm ranking, is the Detroit Lions. I know this Lion team, the defense hasn't been great all season long. I know Hutchinson, he's out for the regular season most likely, but this week at Houston, I have a feeling this team could go out there and actually put some points on the board. Let Green Bay Packer offense, I know Jordan Love wasn't 100%, but they had a pick 6 in the game. They held their offense down for the majority of the ball game as well until some garbage time. Kicking that next gear right now defensively over the last few weeks, like I said, where they're going out there and they're making plays and putting points on the board. So this week at Houston, I know it's going to be a potential shootout. I know Houston's going to put points on the board, but I still believe Detroit, they could create a few turnovers, and it wouldn't be surprising if they find the end zone once again, either in special teams, on a turnover and a fumble or pick 6. That's a top 12 defense DST units I'm ranking for week 10 of the fantasy football season.